The day the world found out was a day no one in the city could forget. It was a warm spring afternoon when the sprawling driveway of the Bennett estate filled with sleek black cars, their tinted windows hiding the faces of 5 of the wealthiest bachelors in the country. They had come dressed in tailored suits, polished shoes gleaming under the sun, ready for what they believed would be the opportunity of a lifetime, to win the approval of a powerful CEO, Eleanor Bennett, and, more importantly, to become the stepfather to her only child, 8-year-old Sophie. But Sophie wasn't just a little girl in a black dress with golden hair that caught the light like a halo. She was a child who had lost her father too soon, a child who understood loneliness more deeply than most adults, and a child who had learned to see the truth in people's eyes long before she learned to read. Before we go further, if you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in judging people by their heart rather than their bank account, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Thread. Your support helps us bring more real, inspiring stories like this to life. From the very start, this wasn't supposed to be Sophie's choice alone. Eleanor Bennett had worked her way from nothing to building one of the largest tech empires in the country. Her life was schedules, contracts, boardrooms, and relentless ambition. After her husband's sudden passing, she threw herself even deeper into her work, convincing herself that building a legacy was the best way to protect her daughter's future. But as Sophie grew, Eleanor noticed a distance forming between them. Sophie smiled less, spoke less, and preferred to spend her afternoons in the quiet corners of the house where no one bothered her. The CEO's own mother had once told her, "A child doesn't just need security, she needs a hand to hold and a voice to tell her she's loved." Eleanor heard those words echo late at night, and somewhere deep down, she knew they were true. That was when she began to think about finding someone who could be a father figure to Sophie. She didn't do things the way most people did. She drew up a list of qualities, reviewed profiles of successful men, and invited 5 who seemed to fit her criteria. They were powerful, wealthy, and well-connected. On the day they arrived, they stood in a neat line in front of the mansion, each waiting for their turn to impress. The cameras of curious reporters lingered at the edges of the driveway, trying to catch a glimpse of this unusual audition. Sophie, however, didn't care about their expensive watches or confident smiles. As she wandered out into the garden, her gaze fell not on the men in suits but on someone kneeling by the flower beds, pulling weeds with careful hands. His name was Daniel Carter, the estate's janitor and handyman. His denim overalls were worn at the knees, yellow gloves smudged with soil, and a small toolkit hung from his belt. Daniel had been working at the mansion for less than a year, quietly fixing pipes, polishing floors, and mending whatever broke. But Sophie had noticed him long before that day, the way he always greeted her with a warm smile, the way he fixed her broken doll without her asking, the way he once stayed late to clean up after a storm so she could play outside the next morning. There was something steady about him, something safe. And more than anything, there was kindness in his eyes. When Eleanor told Sophie she could choose who would be her new father, Sophie surprised everyone by walking right past the line of wealthy men. Her small black shoes clicked against the marble steps as she crossed the driveway, heading straight toward Daniel. The men in suits shifted awkwardly, unsure if this was part of the process. Eleanor frowned, puzzled, as her daughter stopped in front of the janitor, pointed at him with her tiny hand, and said in a voice that rang through the air, "I want him." Gasps rippled through the gathering. The rich suitors exchanged bewildered glances, one even laughed under his breath, assuming it was a child's joke. But Sophie's face was serious. Daniel looked stunned, glancing at Eleanor, unsure if he'd heard her right. Eleanor stepped forward, her heels clicking sharply against the stone, and asked Sophie why she would choose him. The little girl's answer was simple, but it carried a weight that silenced everyone, "Because he's the only one who talks to me like I matter." The days that followed were filled with whispers and judgment. Eleanor's board members cautioned her against such a decision, friends said it would damage her image, and the media treated it like a scandal. CEO's daughter picks janitor over millionaires became a headline on every news outlet. But Sophie stood firm, and for the first time, Eleanor truly looked at Daniel. She saw a man who, despite his humble job, carried himself with quiet dignity. She learned that Daniel had been a single father once too, until a tragic accident took his wife and left him to raise his son alone, a son who later succumbed to illness. He had endured loss, hardship, and loneliness, yet never lost his compassion for others. Slowly, Eleanor began to see what Sophie saw. She noticed how Daniel listened when people spoke, how he remembered the small details, how he never hesitated to help even when no one was watching. She saw Sophie's laughter return when he was around, the way her eyes lit up when she told him about her day, the way she leaned on him with the trust only a child can give. And in those moments, Eleanor realized that wealth could build a house, but love built a home. Months passed, and the media frenzy died down. Eleanor stopped caring about the whispers and started caring about the life they were building together. Daniel never tried to replace Sophie's father. Instead, he became her friend, her mentor, and the steady presence she had been missing. And somewhere along the way, Eleanor herself found comfort in his quiet strength, the way he reminded her to breathe when her work consumed her, the way he made her feel seen as a woman, not just as a CEO. On a crisp autumn morning, in the very garden where Sophie had first chosen him, Eleanor asked Daniel if he would be part of their family for good. He didn't answer with words right away. He simply knelt down, hugged Sophie, and then looked up at Eleanor with eyes that said more than any vow ever could. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to Kindness Thread. It's your support that allows us to keep sharing stories of love, resilience, and second chances. Before we end, I have a special request. Please comment below and tell us. Have you ever seen someone choose kindness over wealth? Your stories inspire us more than you know.